What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're with Chris, and today I'm super excited to be sharing with you another bookshelf tour, an updated tour, because recently my bookshelves, I had just let them go, and after buying more and more books I was struggling to find room. So I had to not only tidy up, but I felt it appropriate to do a relay and change things all around and do a small unhaul as well to make room for my new purchases. And I was originally going to do all this in February next year when I have some time off coming from work, but I thought I was just sick of it, and one day recently I had a burst of energy and just got stuck in and got it done. I can say I'm finally happy with it and how it turned out, and I thought, well look, I'm going to show it off now rather than later, and especially for the benefit of my new subscribers. I did a bookshelf tour I think early in the year, and it's high time I did another one to show off my collection up close rather than looking behind me and trying to see what I've got. I thought I'll just show you in a bit more detail. So I'm pleased to share this with you. Let's kick back and relax, and let's take a look at this. Alright, and into the home office / library we go. Going to swing around to the right here so that you can see my workspace, but I did want to stop and show you this picture on the wall from my son, who did a comic book page for Captain Underpants, which I absolutely love and had to pin it up. And I've got my nice Marvel print there with some Marvel characters, my F-18 Super Hornet from Top Gun Maverick. It's a Lego type model, which I had a fun time building that. And on this table I've got some odd books here. That stack you can see there, apart from Shogun, is a couple of new purchases I've made, which I will show in the channel in a video soon, but we'll focus on Shogun for a moment because this is a project I'm going to be doing sooner rather than later. You can see there where I've marked off 5 sections of the book. That's going to be made up of 5 separate videos as I progress through each section of the book as part of a reading vlog project. So that will be happening in December. I promised that will be done last year, this year, so it's going to be taking up a lot of my December reading, but should be a blast, and I'll be posting those videos up part 1 to 5. Just my workspace there, my Marvel mat, laptop, second screen, and here's my home computer where I'm currently working on my next thumbnail for the channel, which is coming along nicely. I'm pretty much happy with it as it stands at the moment, and that's just a little bit of a peek behind the curtain there. Okay, so not a bad setup I have at home really to do my job, which is awesome. It's a very, very comfortable space. And out here is my view. It's a lovely day here in Australia with a view of a highway. We live across the road from a park, so there's no neighbours to look at. And here's the comfy couch that I use from time to time. So although it's comfortable, it does take up a lot of space, and I am eventually going to get rid of this, get it out of there, and one day I will splurge and buy myself a nice plush leather Chesterfield chair to go in here, which will be a lot better. But let's swing around to the left and start this tour with the top shelf where I keep a lot of my hardbacks because I ran out of space, so I went vertical. So we have all my Stephen King hardbacks there. Moving along, we have a little bit of Dean Koontz as well, bit of Peter Straub, a couple of odds and ends there. And then we're moving into the Clive Cussler Dirk Pitt series there, which I've had those ones there for years. A little bit of Bryce Courtney. And we come to my Matthew Riley collection, my favourite Australian author, with the most recent book, Mr. Einstein's Secretary, that you can see there, which I had an absolute blast with. It was amazing. And some ancient Warhammer stuff there that I've just left to rot. Couple of model cars as well as we move along. And then we move on to my Agatha Christie collection, which I've got a lot of the volumes. I think I'm missing about 4 to complete the set, but it'll be nice to finish that. And I've got some vintage Hardy Boys hardcovers there, along with some Secret 7 as well, which are quite rare at the moment. And swinging on back, and we're going to start with the crime section here. So we've got a bit of Karen Rose, a little bit of Lucy Foley there, Karen Slaughter, and Cleves. And as we move down, we've got some really good standalone titles there. Ali Reynolds, Shiver and the Bay, quite good. She's an Australian author as well. So Nikki French there. I've got Louise Cavendish. She is really good as well. And a couple of series there which I really like. Some Harlan Cobens, Chris Carter, some Jack Carr, and a couple of standalones there. Lowbridge on the right, you can see there. I've reviewed that on the channel recently. It was fantastic. I've got to get American Psycho into my mitts and read sooner rather than later. Moving on up, we've got Mark Dawson. He's a very good thriller writer. And we've got James Elroy there with one of his books that I'm curious about. I haven't read him before, but certainly plan on getting into him soon. And we have a lot of James Patterson books here, so I did have a bit of a James Patterson problem in amassing all these books. But look, two of my favourite series, the Private series and the Detective Michael Bennett series, I've enjoyed them, and the last two installments of each series have been very lackluster and lacking, and I think it's just getting tired really, because there were no real stakes in those two books, and eventually I will do a rant video about it, but yeah, that's for another time. But definitely a lot of James Patterson books there. We've got some Linda LaPlante, we have Chris Hammer, a really good Australian crime author as well. And here we get into a bit of British crime with Peter James, who writes the Detective Roy Grace series, which has been fantastic. I've enjoyed that a lot. I think I only have 4 or 5 books to go before finishing the series, and it has been a real ride, and have enjoyed that a lot. And we come to my lead child Jack Reacher collection, which I'm pretty proud of. I've got pretty much every book. There's maybe 1 or 2 I'm missing, but this book here, you can see Bad Luck and Trouble. I'm going to try, if time allows me, to read this one before season 2 of Reacher comes out, because the season 2 is based on that particular book. I just can't wait for season 2, which comes on December 15, I think. And then we've got a couple of Brad Thor titles there, and some Tom Clancy early paperbacks. Now, they have recently been reprinted into ARB format paperbacks, which is a much more attractive format. So eventually I'm going to get those and get rid of those older hardback ones so that I can upgrade them, and they'll look sensational on the shelf. But the early books in the Tom Clancy series are fantastic, and here we come to a few later titles. I've got every single Jack Ryan book and Jack Ryan Jr. book. This series is my all-time favourite thriller series, and Jack Reacher is my second favourite series of all time. But I just love Jack Ryan. And we have Clive Cussler there as well, and we have a couple of Tom Clancy's Op Center down on the next shelf as well. Moving on up, we have just random stuff there to fill in some space, because I've got a bit of room now. And then we come into my manga section, Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service. I absolutely love this series. There's one more Omni edition I need to get, volume 5, to complete it, and then of course I've got Vinland Saga as well, which I've been really enjoying. And I've got Death Note, the complete Death Note in 6 bind up volumes, so I'm hopefully getting to that shortly. And I've got a bag of tarot cards there, just that's a story for another time. Another blank shelf, 2 blank shelves, and then we get into the science fiction side of things with Contact by Carl Sagan. I must get into that. Blake Crouch and the Expanse series, I've got the first 3 books there, and some SF Masterworks, which I've started to collect as well, which those Gene Wolfe ones there are meant to be a handful, but yeah, I'll get to those one day. And here's my growing Star Wars EU collection, which I'm very proud of this. I'm starting to get the new Jedi Order together, buying a couple of books at a time, but these new editions of the EU books are fantastic. I've spent a fair bit of money on them, but reading the Star Wars Expanded Universe is something that is going to continue into the future on the channel, and I'm on a real Star Wars kick at the moment, and really enjoying what I'm reading there. So looking forward to that segment continuing on the channel well into 2024. But yeah, there's a few more new ones I've got to get in the new printing, but it's going to be great. And of course we have Stephen Erickson's Book of the Fallen, and Peter V. Brett Demon Cycle series. Now the one on the right there, the core, is one I do need to get to, but I did DNF it, but we'll see how that goes. And here we have Wheel of Time, which I'll get to that one day. And a bit more fantasy here. Now I did move Stephen King's The Dark Tower into the fantasy section. I just thought to bulk it up, it seemed appropriate, and got a few titles there, and yeah, eventually I'll get to a lot of these, but yeah, I've got a lot to read. But the Gone series I wouldn't mind getting into. And down the bottom we have some Jenny Wirtz, Terry Brooks and Tad Williams. Have the Night Angel trilogy by Brett Weeks as well, and The Sum of All Men. And moving on up, we have my bind-up of Lord of the Rings, the Game of Thrones series, which I really do need to get into, and the Inheritance Cycle, the first 4 books. They're beautiful editions that have just been released. And my really nice Wizard of Oz volumes there. 3 books to a volume, and they're just really nice looking, and don't know when I'm going to get to them. I've got so much to read. And then I've got my Cosmere shelf here, so I obviously have The Way of Kings and the rest of the books there to read, a couple of paperback editions. I did just recently buy Warbreaker, but I've got the Mistborn trilogy to read there as well, and the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington, which I'm very keen for as well. But you know, it's beyond a joke how much I've got to read. It's crazy. Got my Harry Potter set there, and Skullduggery Pleasant. I've got all the volumes there, which I would like to get into one day, but they look sensational on the shelves. And coming but down here, I have the Inkspell trilogy by Cornelia Funk, which I'm super keen to get into. I've got the Hunger Games trilogy and Jim Butcher, and a few more fantasy titles there, which have the really nice vintage fantasy art on the covers by My Desolate Jr. And here we go into my Stephen King collection, which I've shown quite a bit of over the last couple of years in other bookshelf tours. So I've got my old retro paperbacks there, moving into the B format ones on that shelf, and getting into the hardcover ones I've got there too, which are pretty rare. And then we move into the Halloween covers that I absolutely love, and then we get into the trade paperbacks. So all through the later releases, right up until Holly, which I really enjoyed, by the way, and have reviewed on the channel recently. And then we get into Dean Koontz. So here are some earlier works of his. I have most of his books. And then we go into the smaller books, including the older vintage paperbacks. Just a word on Koontz at the moment. His later books have been touch and go with me at the moment. The House at the End of the World wasn't very enjoyable, neither was Quicksilver. A couple I didn't mind of the later ones, but you know, his latest one is called After Death, and I'm just not keen on starting it because I've lost a little bit of trust in him as an author, which is sad to say. Here we have another our horror section. So we've got the House of Leaves there, which is very intimidating. I will get to that one day, but the Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig is something I'm super keen to get into. Also want to read Flowers in the Attic, and Home Before Dark by Riley Sager is fantastic. I've got The Passage there, and a few layman titles, and a few more layman titles down below, and some more horror books there. I've got some Peter Straub, Clive Barker, and Robert McCammon is over to the right hand side there. He's a fantastic author as well. And moving up to one of the last shelves, we've got horror continuing here with Adam Neville, James Herbert and Bentley Little, who's a very, very good author. I haven't read his stuff in a while, so I need to get back into it. And then we have the first shelf in the classic section now, Firefox by Craig Thomas. Fantastic movie with Clint Eastwood back in 1982. I haven't actually read the book, but I would like to one day. And then we've got some Cormac McCarthy, a couple of Agatha Christie's. And then we have the Random House Vintage Red Spine Classics here. One in particular I need to get to is Butcher's Crossing, which I'm super keen about. And then we have some Penguin Modern Classics and The Book Thief and the Librarian of Auschwitz, which I need to get into as well. And moving on down, we've got my beautiful copy of Count of Monte Cristo, Penguin Black copy of the same book, and then we've got some James Clavell. And this is a bit of a squeeze down here behind the couch, but we've got some historical fiction, including Lonesome Dove, Streets of Laredo. I've really got to get into that, and got a bit of Shakespeare on the end. Probably more for show than anything. I can't see myself reading any of Shakespeare's stuff in the future, but we'll see. And down behind the couch here, in a tight squeeze, we've got some Louis L'Amour and other Western books there, which I'll get to at some point. I did read a few of them for the June on the Range reading project, but yeah, hopefully I'll get to read more soon. But let's do a wide sweeping view here of the library. I'm pretty happy with it, and it's taken a while to amass these, but there you go. So there you go, guys. That is it for my updated bookshelf tour. A little bit earlier than expected, but I thought, what the hell, I might as well just do it now, especially for the benefit of my new subscribers. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until the next video, guys, happy reading.